two-man show today, but that's all right. Bondfire could not make it because he is Christmas tree hunting with his family. So have fun with that. What?
From a tree?
Yeah. So have fun with that, Bondfire. We will miss you, but it's just going to be us two today. Me and WhackMed19 over there. And we've got lots of great topics. I want to start off, as always, by thanking our sponsors, Strictly Business Gaming, for their support in helping us make a great show, a great product, and you give them a follow on Twitter at SBusinessGaming. They've been doing a great job at competitive Call of Duty events recently with a top 8 finish at MLG Columbus. So go give them a follow for helping us out and help them out as well. WhackMed, if you want to go ahead and lead into the first topic, be my guest.
The greatest thing in the history of all of the entire world happened on Saturday. Auburn beat Alabama. Wow, I could feel people's blood rushing to their head right now just from the statement. But it's true, though. I mean, I think it's great. This weekend was huge. All kinds of bad things happened, and it's called, oh, wow, that's embarrassing. Rivalry Weekend, because everybody plays their rivals. And Alabama, of course, played Auburn. Oregon played Oregon State. Florida played Florida State, and I know that there are a lot of other rivals that took place, but those are the biggest in the world according to what the national championship picture looked like. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could make the argument that Oregon State, that it didn't matter to the national championship picture, except that it did because Oregon was in that hunt until 2 weeks ago.
But now they're not. So.
And now, now they're poor old. I think Bondfire is actually on suicide watch, but
yeah, especially after that Arizona loss. I mean, that was
that
was bad.
That was heavy. So, Alabama Auburn. I saw this coming. I did. I know that sounds very.
Sure, you did. Okay.
Exactly. You know.
Okay.
But the thing is, if anybody was going to beat Alabama, it was going to be Auburn, because no matter how bad Auburn is, they can always rise up to Alabama in the Iron Bowl. They can always, and I know you can probably point at like specific years where they did not, or maybe Alabama had no chance. But just like Florida State, that's an anything goes game. It's all about heart and very little about talent. And apparently about luck, because what an ending to a game. I've never seen a game end like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was playing COD Ghost, which I hate, trying to get a gameplay for a video that I wanted to upload until I realized that I don't know if the game sucks or if I just suck at the game, but I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm going to go watch Auburn, Alabama for the last 8 minutes of the game. So I went downstairs, and I picked a pretty good 8 minutes to watch. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you live under a rock and you don't follow college football, basically what happened was Alabama was 1 for 4 on field goals in the game so far. They had one kicker who was 1, or maybe 1 for 5, I don't remember, but they had one kicker who was one of 2. He had made one and missed one. They had one kicker who was 0 for 2 or 0 for 3. He'd missed 2 or 3, all of his attempts. I don't remember exactly. But basically they got down and they ended up with the ball with 1 second left. Basically, they had like 8 seconds left, right? They throw a screen pass or a dump off or whatever, or maybe it is a draw, actually. It was a draw play to the running back, and he got out of bounds with 1 second left, and it was, at first they ruled the game to be over in regulation, 0 seconds left. They went back and reviewed, they put 1 second on the clock. Alabama is basically on the very edge of field goal range. They have a 57-yard field goal attempt. They attempt the field goal, 57-yarder. It's short by a couple yards. It was a really good kick, actually. It would have been good from 50 to 52-ish. It was a really good kick, but nonetheless, they missed it. It was about 9 yards deep in the end zone. Auburn had a guy back to return it. He takes it. He returns it for a touchdown, and Auburn wins. And it was so awesome just because, I don't know, you never see that happen. Like, I've never seen someone return a kick return a field goal for a touchdown to win a game.
Not one that's caught because it was kicked at full distance, like maybe blocked, maybe
Well, yeah, but like
some
one that
other
was
issue,
returned.
but fully. I mean, this guy got all leg. It was a dude launched it the entire way as
Yeah.
far as his tiny little leg could muster. Gave it his all. This guy's like, this belongs to me now, and went on
Yep, and
down road
109 yards back the other way.
all the way back, and
And it's just like, as you watch, as it unfolds, you're like, okay, we're going to overtime. And then he gets up to about 30, and you're like, surely they're going to make the tackle. And then he's at like the 40, and you see like the last couple white jerseys in the area, and you're like, wait a second, this might happen. And then he just moves out of that group, and you're like, well, what the heck? And I was like yelling and screaming, and I have zero affiliation to either team, and I was like so hype about it just because it was awesome. But that was not the only great finish, though. I mean, Michigan went for a 2-point conversion instead of a tie against Ohio State instead of the extra point and did not get it, and Ohio State survived. I forget what happened. The Georgia and Georgia Tech game.
Georgia Tech went into overtime, double overtime, something like that.
I didn't watch it, but people said it was good.
Georgia came from behind. I think they came from behind, took them to overtime, and beat them.
I can confirm momentarily.
And then you had Oregon State. Oh, the other thing that Oyster left out was that Auburn came from down 21 points to tie it up, and then to take it to the victory. I don't think Auburn had a prayer in overtime. And make the argument all you want to, they're playing on emotion, not on skill. And when it comes down to overtime, you've got skill and you've got luck. Emotion is played out by this point.
Well, yeah, you can only. It's like the golden, not the golden rule necessarily, but like, and it applies mostly to basketball just because the way the game's played, but it applies to other sports, including football as well. Is that if a team gets behind by a lot, in order for them to come back, they have to muster all of their energy, all of their emotion, all of their ability into making that comeback. To when oftentimes once they actually get there and get back in the game, they've spent so much of themselves to get back in the game that they don't have enough left to actually go forward and win, which probably would have been the situation with Auburn, that they would have spent so much of their energy and so much effort and exerted so much to actually get back even with Alabama. They might not have been able to hang in overtime, but we'll never know, and we don't need to know. I guess now we could...
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, and I interrupted you.
But yeah, I was just going to say, we can talk about the national championship implications now, since that's a little closer to home for you, I guess.
Oh, that's right here. With Alabama losing, see, it's what we've been saying is that the only one that can beat us is Willie Meggs. The only one that can beat us is Willie Meggs, because with Jameis in, we'll beat Alabama. We feel good about it, and I understand that's just speculation. That's just local hype.
Is Willie Meggs
is the state attorney that could charge him? Yeah.
I thought so. I just wanted
Willie
to confirm.
Meggs is an outfielder.
I knew. First I said Willie Meggs, and I'm like, okay, I know that guy's a baseball player. Don't really get this, but I just wanted to make sure. So carry on.
Willie Meggs is the only one that can beat us, because if he takes Jameis out, then it's game over. Our third string quarterback does not have the talent to play against Alabama. However, now that Alabama is not in the picture, we'll be whoever they put in front of us. So even with, I'm not asking them to arrest Jameis Winston at all. I hope they finish their investigation and they find that the truth can be found and justice can prevail. However, even that's not going to stop. There is nobody that can play with us. We haven't been challenged all year. And it's not for lack of effort. People have thrown good games at us. It's not, if you had 3 plays that you were saving for that moment, they've got dust on them now, because we've not gotten close to that moment anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you can say Florida did a great job because they kept us under 40 points. Yeah, we haven't been challenged. It's like Boston College came the closest to actually challenge. They played the game for 4 quarters with us. Nobody else has done that. Clemson didn't do that.
Well,
Miami didn't do that.
I don't want to overanalyze Florida State because we've done that enough on this show. I'll say one thing before I get into the rest of my point. I think you're gonna laugh. You're gonna say whatever. You're full of crap. I think Duke keeps it within 21 points. I don't know if it'll actually be a close game. I think they keep it. I think they keep it in Boston College-ish territory at the least, personally. I just think that's more of a gut feeling than anything else. Now, that aside, I want to ask you, first of all, and you can answer, I guess, right away if you want, but would you rather have Ohio State or Auburn in the title game? Because I think if Auburn wins the SEC championship game against Missouri, regardless of what happens with Ohio State, I think Auburn has a chance to jump Ohio State in the polls.
The only team I don't want to play is Missouri. I give maybe too much respect to Missouri. Missouri is, and I'm hoping you're pulling it up because I don't have the stats in front of me.
You want their schedule? Or?
Yeah, I want their 2 losses.
They've lost 2?
Yeah, I
thought they only lost 1.
I thought they had lost 2. One of them was LSU, and I don't remember the other one.
Missouri's lost 1 game. They lost to South Carolina.
I thought they lost to LSU. Okay, well that's just embarrassing to have lost to South Carolina. They're terrible. They're not good.
Here's who they beat. They beat Georgia. They beat Florida. They beat Ole Miss. They beat Texas A&M, and they lost to South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with South Carolina.
I think they might have been missing. That might have been one of the games they were missing their starting quarterback though, because he missed a couple. Or maybe he might still be out. I don't even know what happened to him, but I know he was injured.
Missouri did just like Duke. They flew under the radar for most of the season. In fact, as far as Duke goes, and I'm in ACC territory, as are you, I didn't hear anything about Duke until like 2 weeks ago.
More or less.
When we beat Miami, when Miami lost, to Maryland? After Miami lost to us, they lost to somebody else, and it was during that loss that I started hearing about Duke. And Duke just kind of they're 10-2, I believe.
Yes, they're 10-2. They lost to Georgia Tech and Pitt.
If they were any other school with 2 losses, they'd get a pretty good amount of respect. I mean, that's better than everybody in the Pac-12.
Might be actually. No, Stanford, I guess, has 1 loss. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean you're gonna have Stanford, Oregon, and maybe Washington.
UCLA.
Washington should have 3. So there's actually more of a chance, I think, for Alabama to get back in there for the SEC. I think Missouri wins over Auburn, and that's because I think Auburn is emotionally drained going into that game. I think they have no get up and go. It's like you got up for Alabama. How do you get up like that emotional power play? How do you do that for Missouri? Because they're Missouri. Just like we're saying, they're Duke. Yeah. This is not a high pedigree of high caliber football that you're playing here. You're from Missouri.
Right. And just to clarify for people, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not they're a good football team. It's just there's not as much mystique or allure around the game as far as hype, I guess, just from a name value standpoint. So.
Right, and that's just it. I think Auburn loses that game because they come out flat and they can't compete against what Missouri has to offer. Then you have the argument of Missouri or OSU. The thing is, I think OSU gets beat this week. They play...
I hope so. They play Michigan State, who's much better than people think.
The Spartans are a solid team. I say Michigan State takes them. So you're back to that true scenario of a one-loss team has the ability to go there. Who is it? Alabama? Is it Auburn? It shouldn't be Alabama because they're not even going to their conference playoff. And I understand that's a bowl system problem, but it's the rules, man. So you got to live with it.
Basically, here, okay, I've got a lot. I'm going to throw out a lot here because at this point, there's a lot of possible scenarios. It's not clear cut. I don't think you can say win and end for anybody, even Ohio State, because I don't know. Ohio State had a decent margin of lead on Auburn in the BCS poll this week. That's probably going to be very narrow now, I would expect. And Brad Edwards, the BCS guy for ESPN, has projected that, and his projections are basically 100% right every single week. So I'm going to assume this is what it's going to be. That the standings will be Florida State 1, Ohio State 2, obviously, and then Auburn 3, Alabama 4, and Missouri 5. So, number one, and let's just assume that that's what it's going to be, because as I said, he's pretty much always right. Here's what I would not want to see, and I don't think this would happen. Number one, Missouri beats Auburn. It should be Ohio State, Florida State. Alabama should not be over Missouri if Missouri wins the SEC championship, even though they're above Missouri right now. I think if Auburn wins, Auburn should jump Ohio State even if Ohio State wins. And here's why. I'm looking at Ohio State's schedule right now. You could argue they've played an equal schedule to Northern Illinois at this point. Honestly, and I'm not trying to bash the Big Ten. The Big Ten's just not as good as it used to be. It's a fact, okay? They've beaten hang on, let me go back. I got on the Michigan State schedule. Ohio State, they beat the best teams they've beaten are Wisconsin and Michigan, basically. Wisconsin's 9-3. Michigan is, I don't even know what Michigan's record is. Michigan's 7-5. The only marquee win that Ohio State really had was Northwestern, and Northwestern collapsed after that game. So Northwestern's not a quality win anymore. Ohio State's basically beaten nobody. If Ohio State beats Michigan State, I'll give them credit because Michigan State's got one of the best defenses in the country. They allow 11 points per game, which is ridiculous. It's fourth in the country. Michigan State's played as good of a schedule as Ohio State, really, if we're being honest here. So I think that game will be close, but I think if you look at who Auburn's played and Auburn's beaten, Auburn, they lost to LSU on the road. Other than that, they've beaten everybody. They beat Texas A&M on the road. They beat Arkansas on the road. I know Arkansas's not great, but it's a road SEC win. They beat Tennessee on the road. They beat Georgia. They beat Alabama. So they've beaten everybody that's put in front of them except at LSU, which is tough for anybody to go in there and win. So I would have to put Auburn ahead of Ohio State if Auburn wins. I think if I'm a Florida State fan, I want anybody but Auburn because – and I don't know. I don't know how in depth. You pretty much said you think you can beat anybody as long as you have Jameis. Basically, is what more or less your stance was. But you would prefer to not have Missouri, right?
Right. I'd rather. Well, the thing is this: do you want a national championship? We probably are going to get a national championship. What teams could keep you from doing that? Alabama could keep us from doing that. Alabama could beat us. Missouri could beat us. Auburn could beat us, maybe. I don't think so. I mean, I'm not saying it like that to be dramatic. I'm really trying to think. Do I think Auburn could beat us? No, they're going to allow us to score 50 points. They can't keep up with that scoring. I mean, just tit for tat, they can't keep up for that scoring. Not against our defense.
Here's why I think. First of all, I think you guys would wax Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State's the top
that won't
5.
be a game, dude.
I don't think Ohio State's the top 5. I'm sorry, Ohio State fans, but until you beat somebody, I know you've won 24 games in a row, okay? But I don't care. You haven't beaten anybody good. You haven't. If you beat Michigan State, if Ohio State beats Michigan State and they're impressive in that victory, double-digit point margin and they look good, I give Ohio State a bit of a chance against Florida State. But outside of that, they haven't beaten anybody. The reason I wouldn't want Auburn, the reason I think Auburn honestly is the best outside of Alabama, I think Alabama's out of the picture. Out of the teams I think are still in the picture, Auburn, I give the best chance probably because their rushing game is just so good. And I understand that Florida State is a good defense, but they're top 5 in the nation in running, and they ran all over Alabama. I think they could run all over Florida State if they can run all over Alabama, personally. And you can argue that Florida State is a better defense, but it's not that much better.
Okay, let me take exception to that. Our 2s and 3s, our defensive 2s and 3s, have taken almost 40% of the snaps this year. They're in that much of the game. Like, we seriously pull them out with half of the third quarter left. We pull our ones out. They don't even play. And it's like, your defense gave this up. Yeah, we gave up 200 yards in the fourth quarter because our best guys were in the locker room putting on their street clothes. We were done. So
No, I understand that. I'm not taking away from Florida State's defense. I'm simply saying that it's not way better than Alabama to the point where they're going to run all over Alabama and you're going to shut them down.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, I'm trying to find the exact stats here. Auburn rushed for 296 yards yesterday. 296 yards rushing against Alabama. I mean, it's just their running game is basically unstoppable, and their defense, I think, is better than you give them credit for.
Alabama's running game's unstoppable?
No, Auburn. They ran for 300 yards against Alabama.
Okay.
And if you look at, I mean, Auburn's played some decent teams, some decent offenses, rather, and held them somewhat in check. I mean, the best offense they've played probably is Texas A&M, and they held the 41, and that was on the road. So, and I don't know. I think Auburn's kind of a iffy matchup. And to be honest, I still don't think Florida State's really beating anybody. I know they haven't been challenged, but I still don't know if they have it.
Who could they possibly play and say that they would be a challenge? I mean, unless you're talking about top 5 teams, then like Auburn could challenge us, Stanford could challenge us, Alabama, Missouri could challenge us. Like, who else could stop us from what we do on offense? Because we dropped an 80 bomb this year, dude.
Against Idaho. Idaho's a glorified Division III team.
Who else has dropped an 80 this year? Baylor, and has Baylor even done that? Probably. But
probably. I don't know.
Nobody. Against Ohio State sure hadn't done that against any of the Division VI teams that they've played. So,
but I'm just looking at your schedule. I mean, Duke might be the best team you've played this year. And I know you can say Clemson. But Clemson.
How many losses does Clemson have?
Clemson lost yesterday, which means they're now 10-2. They lost at South Carolina. They lost 31-17.
So other than us, other than Florida State, they went undefeated until the last game of the year.
Yeah, but they didn't beat anybody either.
The same argument we're making about. I mean, who did Alabama beat, really? LSU, they're a 2-loss team. They beat Texas A&M, they're a 3-loss team.
Alabama beat. I don't even know how good Virginia Tech is. It's not that good.
They're trash.
8-4, but that's not that good of a win still. They won at Texas A&M. They beat LSU. And that's pretty much it. You're right.
Those are not that good of teams. So, in my opinion, when we're breaking down who has the strength of schedule, you say, oh, well, they're SEC, so they're all that great. Look at the SEC. They've got 3 teams in the top 5 prognostication that Oyster read out from, who was it? Homeboy over at ESPN?
Brad Edwards.
And he's actually known for being very accurate.
I don't think he's ever gotten it wrong, but go ahead.
They're overranked because their claims to fame are beating up on each other. And let me put it into this kind of perspective. If Florida were to beat Alabama, as bad as Florida is, and as good as Alabama was, if Florida were to beat Alabama, you say, wow, look how deep the SEC is. Man, their bad teams are so awesome. However, if Syracuse were to have beaten Florida State, you'd say, look how trash the ACC is because even their best teams are as bad as their worst teams. The same exact scenario, if you change the conference name, then they say, oh, well, you're either really deep because you're in the SEC or you're really trash because you're not in the SEC. The truth is that what you really do is just beat up on each other. And then you fill your schedule with non-conference teams. Until that changes, all your strength of schedule, that's by the wayside. Now, the SEC does more years have more high-power running teams, and if you can't stop the run in college football, you can't win. And that's why I think they get that acclaim, or did 25 years ago. That's why they got that fame, and then they've just kind of held it, because how can you argue? They don't play anybody else other than a couple of rivalry games. Like Alabama played one ACC team in Virginia Tech. Florida played one ACC team in Florida State. I don't know that any of them played a Pac-12 team, or maybe a Big Ten team. Is Idaho in the Big Ten? Did we play a Big Ten team?
Idaho's in the Big West or something.
They're an
Idaho
school, aren't they?
I don't know. I think they're Division One. They're in the WAC. They're in the WAC. I'm 99% sure. Which is Division One.
The point is, if you're only going to play your people, your conference, then you don't really know how good across the strings it is. And if you can make an argument for why that statement is not completely accurate, I'd like to hear it. I'm not asking you to come at me, bro. I'm just saying, how do you invalidate that statement if you never play against each other? How do you know? So
I agree 100%. Really, I still think that teams and I can't pull up I'll try to pull up the SEC standings real quick so I can just confirm, but I still feel like teams like Texas A&M and LSU, let me try to pull up the standings just to make sure. Yeah, here. Basically, if you take the top 6 teams overall based on record in the SEC, that gives you Missouri, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. So I still think LSU, Texas A&M, South Carolina are still better than the 4th, 5th, and 6th best teams in every other conference. But, to your point, you can't say that these teams, Vanderbilt, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, if you lose to those teams, it's a bad loss. But it seems like it doesn't get weighted as that most of the time. It does not get weighted as a bad loss. It gets weighted as an SEC loss.
Right.
So, whereas if you look at, like you said in the ACC, I mean, if you have Georgia Tech, who's 7-5 and is a decent team but not great, but they're okay. If they were to beat Clemson, then it's a terrible loss for Clemson. Terrible loss. That's a 7-5 team in the ACC over a 10-2 ACC team. If you take a 7-5 team like Ole Miss out of the SEC and have them, remember at the beginning of the year when Ole Miss lost to Alabama 25-0 or something, everybody's like, oh, Alabama shut down this awesome Ole Miss offense. Alabama was so impressive. What's the difference between Ole Miss and Georgia Tech?
Shout out to Ole Miss, who did win this weekend and ruined my freeofficepool.com thing. You suck. Please continue.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I have to agree 100%. And I would put my money on, overall, I guess, to wrap up this discussion, I'd put my money on Florida State to beat. If you were telling me straight up, pick a winner, Florida State against the 3 teams that are still in it, realistically, Missouri, Auburn, and Ohio State, I would take Florida State over all 3 of them. If I had to rank the toughest matchup each one, I'd go Auburn, Missouri, then Ohio State. And I still don't think Ohio State deserves to be in the game, but we'll see how things shake out this weekend.
Yeah.
For all we know, Duke could beat Florida State, and it could all come crashing down.
I think the Spartans beat OSU, and I think Missouri beats Auburn, and I think that just puts it in complete disarray.
If that were to happen, what?
I mean, who do you put in? You'd either put in Missouri or Alabama. You'd have to, because that's the only.
I don't think you could put in Alabama over Missouri if Missouri actually won the game. That would be a complete abomination in my mind.
But that's why we're leaving the system anyway, because stupid stuff like that happens.
That's true. You'd be saying, if you put Alabama in that situation, you'd be saying, we're going to put a team that lost to Auburn and didn't make it to the SEC championship over a team that beat Auburn and won the SEC championship.
Right. And things like that have happened in the past. Happened in the past. So
You're
Um,
exactly right. It happened a few years ago. Not exactly the same, but when Alabama played LSU in the national title, they're in the same division of the same conference. So obviously, I don't remember which one, but one of them didn't play in the SEC title game.
you had
So
Hawaii go undefeated one year, and they didn't make it to the championship either. They didn't even get a vote.
yep.
So, and that was about. That pissed me off. I think they went undefeated. They should have made it. Anyway, whatever. So,
Yet you don't know about Ohio State.
I hate Ohio State. I don't like Urban Meyer. I think that Meyer saw bad things coming at Florida and
I agree.
bailed and just
I agree.
jumped ship like a bilge rat with a life preserver. And he broke his contract knowing that he was going to play football, coach football again.
Yeah.
You can't prove that because it's only what he discussed with his wife and what his family, because his family man, what he sat down and discussed with his daughters and maybe his doctor with a fake heart attack. You know what, that may be a line that shouldn't be crossed. But you served your 1 year of I have to sit on the bench and not do anything, and you immediately went back to coaching. Didn't call. He shouldn't have been able to do it. If you're saying I'm going to retire, Brett Favre, stay retired.
Well, he never.
Garth Brooks,
Did he ever say for sure that he was going to retire? I thought he just said he was leaving for a while, and he may or may not come back. But I agree that Urban Meyer. I don't want to get too strong on my language. He's a very slick, I perceive to be underhanded coach. That's the best way I can put it without.
He's supposed to be like the church guy.
But everybody.
I discuss everything with my wife. I sit down with my entire family. We get at a table. We round table it. We pray and then we talk about it. Which, you know what? That's great. That's what you should do. That's not what you typically hear of a football coach doing. But if that's who you want to espouse that you are, recognize that the guy holding your wife's hand is a liar.
We can pretty much leave it at that. I think we're on the same page there. Yep. You want to talk about microtransactions on the Xbox One, or
I want
you want
Bondfire to be done shopping for trees so that he can show up and talk about microtransactions.
Yeah, this is actually Bondfire made a Charlie Brown Christmas before he went to go get his Charlie Brown Christmas tree. He said, "You guys should talk about microtransactions because deep down inside, I'm a PS4 fanboy, and I just want to talk about all the stuff that sucks about the Xbox One." Wait, he didn't say that last part, but I inferred that last part.
I think we can go ahead and move on at this point, can't we?
Anyways, do you have anything to talk about with that? Because I know basically you can buy cars in Forza, you can buy upgrades in Rise, you can buy characters in Killer Instinct.
You know, back in the day, in the 8-bit Nintendo, and I will keep this brief, I know your feelings on it. In 8-bit Nintendo, you know what the cheat codes were? Because there was one TV show in the afternoon that would teach you cheat codes. One TV show. And it didn't run for very long, at least not where I could have the ability to see it. Really cool show, I don't remember the name of it. And that was the only way to get cheat codes. The PlayStation 1, though there was a generation before that where you could actually plug something in. I think the Sega Genesis had a Game Genie or something like that you loaded into your console, and it would open up like God modes and Rambo modes and stuff like that. Now on the computer, you could get hacks and stuff. But on a console, it was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Now, you can basically pay $2 and cheat your entire way through the game. If you want to do that, that's cool, I suppose.
Are you referring to the Xbox One?
I am referring to any game that you can pay $2 for and buy the best car in the game, the best gun in the game, the best armor in the game, the best airplane in the game, whatever. Whatever it is that you pay $2 for and you buy the best one of, that's the game that I'm referring to. If you can go God mode engaged for $2 over everybody else, then go ahead, as long as it doesn't affect me in the way I play the game.
Right. I have a similar feeling in that the only time I think this kind of buy to win strategy is bad is if it's in a multiplayer game, and like a good example of somebody who did it right, and I'm going to bring up Call of Duty, was Call of Duty in Black Ops 2 when they brought in the Peacekeeper. The Peacekeeper was a DLC weapon you could buy. However, it was not so good that if you did not pay the money to get it, you were at a disadvantage. You could argue it was the third or fourth best SMG, and it was, average. So, I don't have a problem. I've played Rise. You don't need to do microtransaction Rise to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. It's completely unnecessary. It does not help you at all, really. I mean, it helps you, but it's not. It's such a minuscule help, and plus it's a single player game, so that's not a big issue. I haven't played Killer Instinct, so I don't really know if there's any like OP fighters you can get that would give you an advantage over people. You've played that, haven't you? You've played Killer Instinct, right?
Yes.
Is it a situation where you can pay to win in that game with buying certain fighters, would you say?
You have to buy everything in that game. You've got like one or two guys unlocked that you can play with, and that's it. If you want to play with...
Well, isn't that a free-to-play game?
Yeah. This
okay,
is a
well,
little
okay.
bit off top end that you buy everything in that game because it's a free-to-play game. So It's a little bit better. It's better than having a free beta, because you actually get the game. You just only get these two people that you can play with. And in fact, you can go through and play like the campaign, where you play through progressively harder people to fight against. Progressively harder AI to fight against, just like any other Mortal Kombat type game. But now, you're right. And the microtransactions in Call of Duty in Black Ops 2 were for...
Camos. Aesthetics.
Something that means nothing. In fact, I didn't even buy the second pack. I bought the first pack because I was like, well, I got some extra cash laying around, and I didn't know what was going to go on with the Xbox One and the way the money would transfer over. Maybe some people on the YouTube channel care if I have Hello Kitty looking camo. Let me go ahead and buy them all. I didn't use any of them. And you know what it actually did for me? It devalued the diamond camo.
I agree.
So,
as I've said a million times, as someone who grinded out the diamond camo for every single primary in that game, the moment that I saw everybody slap on bacon without thinking about it was the moment that I wanted to cry. But, anyways, so yeah, I don't have a problem with microtransactions in free-to-play games, even if you count as free to or as pay to win. A good example is League of Legends, because that game is free-to-play, and it's the most played game in the world, and I've been playing a lot of that lately. And how that game works is that there's, I don't know how many champions there are in League of Legends, a couple hundred maybe, and champions are the main characters that you play as. There might be around 100, I don't know off the top of my head, because I don't, play it that much to where I know that, but basically, it cycles, I think, on a week-by-week basis, where there's like 10, and these numbers aren't exact, like I said, but there's like 10 or 12, maybe 14 champions that are free to play. The game is free to download, and you can play with this set of champions. You can pick one of this set to play for free. Or you can buy any other champion if you want and use them whenever you want. So, and that's a good system because you can buy them with a thing called influence points, which you earn by playing the game, or you can buy them with real money. It's up to you. But at the same time, you can also play with every champion in the game eventually because the cycle keeps going, and it gives you a chance to try out champions that you might want to buy. So I think that kind of system is good, and I don't have a problem with any kind of pay-to-win in a free-to-play game because in the end, they have to make their money somehow. And they're not going to say, okay, we're going to make a free-to-play game, and the only thing you're going to buy is be able to buy stuff that's aesthetics. That rarely works. It works in Team Fortress 2, but that's the only game I can think of that it works. You're going to have to give some kind of competitive enticement for people that don't care about aesthetics, like me or you, to buy stuff. Forza, this is a game where I have a big issue with this, is in Forza. And I haven't played Forza yet. I'm getting it for Christmas, so I haven't played it yet. But if you can take cars that you buy with real money and race them in online races, I have a huge problem with that because that is pay to win. That's saying I have a better car than you because I bought it and I'm going to beat you with it. Because the fact is, in racing games, there are cars that are better than others. It's not the Peacekeeper where if you have it, maybe it makes you better, maybe it doesn't. If I have a Corvette and you have a Prius because I bought a Corvette, I'm going to beat you.
So
So,
the way that I have a problem with this is that, say that, which one did you buy because it was the best one? The
um,
Corvette.
in Forza,
I mean, make it up for the word picture. It was the Corvette.
Corvette, yeah, whatever.
Okay, you buy the Corvette
Hypothetically,
because it's the best car that's out there to buy, right? You pay your
hmm
$2, you throw in your money, and everybody buys the Corvette. You know what? This guy over here, they buy the Porsche, and those guys over there, they buy the Mustang, and you've got the dominance on the road is the guy working his way up with a Prius that buys nothing. You've got the Corvette, the Mustang, and what was the third one? The Porsche. Nobody is buying the Aston Martin. Nobody. Because it has terrible gearing or it does bad on the road. So they nerf the three of you a little bit and they buff this Aston Martin where it is now the best car in the game. And you say, what's the big deal? Well, the thing is they've literally devalued what my $2 was for. My $2
yes.
was for the best, and now you have devalued that. You have taken away from what it is that I bought. You've literally taken from me by a keystroke. And I would have bought the Aston Martin. The thing is, I wanted the best, so I paid for the best, and what you have done is you've made something else better. I didn't pay for you to do that. I didn't choose for you to do that. You selected to do that on your own, and we didn't agree to that whenever I paid you. That's my problem, is that if you're going to do microtransactions for an element of me versus you, then it needs to be set and say, well, we're not going to rebalance anything. If you choose to buy the Aston Martin and play with it, cool. You know what? I play with crappy guns sometimes in Call of Duty just to do it. That shotgun that's a revolver thing, too. That gun's terrible. Unless you're in hardcore. But I play with crappy guns sometimes too. But if I'm going to pay for it, I'm not buying that gun. I'm buying the FP6, and that's what I'm buying. And if you're going to take away from the value of what my $2 was for, that's my problem. It's my
Yeah, they do that in League of Legends too. Because back a while ago, I got really good at playing the legend or the champion Master Yi. Master Yi was completely overpowered, and everybody hated Master Yi, but I used him because he was overpowered, and I got really good with him. What do? They nerfed Master Yi after I bought him. Now he's not overpowered, and I need to use somebody else. It's the same. It's exactly what you're saying, and it happens. And I don't have a problem with it in free-to-play games, as I said, but I feel like in a game where I'm paying $60 for a retail, I shouldn't be able to buy an advantage over people further. That's just my feeling. So the only game on the list that we mentioned, I guess, off the X-Bone, which was Forza, Killer Instinct, and Rise. Forza is kind of the only game I have an issue with it in, personally.
Okay, well, that's cool. I don't have a problem with it in any. I think my problem is the way it's applied, more so than the way that than its actual existence. I didn't want to see it when I saw microtransactions come in. I saw a couple of videos where they were like, it's come to fruition that microtransactions can be bad.
Yep. You want to move on? Ask your random question.
So the random question is, I gotta pull it up. Hold on, just. Name the top best 3 TV shows of all time. So you have to go past your generation and say what you think the best 3 TV shows of all time were.
Top 3 TV shows of all time. Well, I can't really go past my generation because I only know what I've watched. So.
You've never watched anything that was before your time?
Well, I have, but not enough of.
But this is for you. It doesn't. I mean, there's no wrong answer here.
Okay, well, don't be putting these stipulations on me. Let's see. Top 3 TV shows. I feel like I have bad taste in TV shows. I don't because I don't watch any of, like, I don't watch Breaking Bad. I don't watch Walking Dead. I don't watch a lot of the big. I watch comedies, pretty much.
I've never seen a single episode of Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead, so you're safe
Well,
here.
okay.
Your hate will only come by way of YouTube comment, and those guys are angels.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure they'll be polite about it and use proper language.
And grammar and spelling.
Oh, God. Anyways, okay, so, I don't know if I could name top 3 best. If I had to name my top 3 favorite, though, what I find the most entertainment in, I would say South Park. Don't look at me like that.
I hate South Park. I hate South Park like here. I hate them so bad. Please continue.
Okay. South Park.
This is what's wrong with America today.
Modern Family.
You're not going to say the Gaither Family Gospel Hour, are you?
No.
Okay.
South Park, Modern Family, and man, I don't even know what other shows do I even watch. I need to turn on my TV and look at my DVR because I don't even know. All I watch is sports and South Park. Oh man, I'm gonna have to pass on number 3 for now.
Okay, good. I'll give you just a few moments to get there. Scrubs, #1 pick, best TV show ever. Scrubs was when did Scrubs come out? Do you know off the top of your head? Late 90s maybe. Zach Braff was the star. The guy from Office Space that was going to give you 3 people. Whatever that guy's name is, he was the doctor, Dr. Cox or whatever. He was the other main star. And Sarah Chalk was beautiful. The star, the female star, female lead, Donald Faison was another lead. Best show ever made. It was just funny, and it was medical, and they played funny medical, and they played into some of what we call dark humor, which is laughing at dead things because you cry if you don't kind of deal. And dark humor is really, it got that name for a reason. They played into some of that. They had one episode where they were talking about kicking out the Gomers. Gomer, get out of my ER, and kicking the old people back to the nursing home. That's crass. No, that's true. Like, it's funny, truly funny. Not whatever. Take it right. Funny show, hilarious. Laugh till you pee in your pants. Grab your ribs. It's on Netflix. Second, Full House. One of the best shows
I've watched Full House. I like it.
Ever made because it was always morally centered. You always felt like you could watch it and become better. If you did what was done in the show, you became a better person. So that was a really cool sentiment. The stars of that show are had really insanely good chemistry on that show. They worked together so well for an extreme amount of years. The show ran for more than 10 years? 10 years somewhere?
For a while.
I mean, a really long time. And I'm actually having trouble thinking of the third one too. I bring this up. Do you need another minute?
I don't even know if I have a third one.
I bring this up because my kids love Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island ran 3 seasons with about 22 episodes a season. And
that's a lot of episodes.
That's a lot. They did longer seasons, I guess, because there's 100 and off the top of your head.
It's about 30 episodes a season.
Over 30 episodes.
That's a ton.
It's over 30 episodes a season. So this is a really bad TV show. There's 7 people on the show, and when they get extra money, they bring in somebody else. So that's cool. Whatever. The whole thing is either filmed in Hawaii, just a little bit, but most of it's filmed in a studio, and you can tell Like all this, there's only like 4 different scenes in the entire show for the entire lifespan of the entire show. There's only 4 different scenes, and there's, I say with exception, there were maybe 5 or 10, less than 10 shows where they did like somebody's dreaming of being in a castle or something like that. And other than that, you just had the few sets that they actually had. For its time, it was really racy. But the plot, I'm babbling, trying to get to my point. The plot is the exact same on every single episode. They figure out a way to get off the island. Gilligan screws it up. This thing ran for over 100 episodes, and in 90 of these episodes, they figured out a way to get off the island. Gilligan screws it up. You know what, dude? You're gonna go sit in a cave until we leave here. Like, leave here and get back to land. And then we will send someone for you. You can't even get on the boat with us that we're leaving on. Or, if that doesn't work, Gilligan gotta go. The headhunter just gonna have to eat him.
That's interesting.
It's a terrible, terrible show. And so I brought up, well, what's a good show? Because my kids love this show. Like, they watch it any chance they can. Over real TV. They're watching Gilligan's Island. And it's in black and white. Oh, some of them are. Dude, look, I love Gilligan's Island too. It's hilarious. It's comedy gold. It was actually pretty racy for its time with some of the outfits the girls wore. I enjoy the show. It's pretty cool. But it was a really bad storyline that repeated itself, and I don't know that I have a third either. Scrubs and Full House.
I feel like there's not that many good shows, and I feel like there's not that many good shows that go on right now. I know people who are Breaking Bad and Walking Dead fans will bash me,
Yeah,
but
what about NCIS or CSI?
I'll throw my third in there. You just reminded me that I like Hawaii Five-0, which is a remake of the old Hawaii Five-0, and yes, I did know that, and I really like the new version. It's really entertaining. I've never gotten overly into like police shows, but that one's entertaining. I like that one. So that'd probably be my number 3. Those are the 3 shows that I watch consistently, and the reason I like South Park, and I don't know why you hate it, but the reason I like South Park is because I find it amusing that. And how they make fun of current events and offer, like, if you really dig beneath all of the, like, immature jokes, you can actually find some really funny satire relating to current events and whatever situations they're playing off of that particular episode. And that's why I like it the most. Plus, there's just some of the really stupid jokes are extremely funny. I'm just going to say it. So.
Yeah. I care not for the show. I've never seen Modern Family.
You either love it or you hate it. South Park, that is. Most people like Modern Family. It's kind of dropped off the last couple seasons, I think, but it's good enough for me.
Private Practice was good in its first season. Grey's Anatomy was good in its first season. There was 24 was actually, the first season of 24 was terrific. I'm missing something that I used to watch like every single episode of. I would catch up on it at work when I could or wherever I could. I cannot think. I used to watch this TV show and I cannot think of what it is at all. Maybe we'll come back to it later. Can we move on?
We can now.
I totally missed the timestamp for that release. It's in the chat. Sweet. Thank you. Go ahead.
Ghost patch. Okay. So what that was that the first patch for Black Ops 2 came out on December 7th of the year that Black Ops 2 was out. So
12.
Yes, they came out December 7th. It's December 1st, and that was the first game balancing patch.
I'm sorry, I gave you that information. There was a patch on November 22nd, but it was just for what you were fixing to explain.
Yes, we're talking just game balancing patches. So the first game balancing patch where you have buffs, nerfs, all that kind of stuff was December 7th. And it's now December 1st, and we have yet to have that patch for Call of Duty Ghosts. So, Whackman, take it away.
So what I'm wondering is what's going to be in it. And, I mean, maybe this would be better for a... Yeah, maybe I should make a video on this or whatever, but I'm actually very interested in the patches. I don't know of anything... I can't think of anything that's unbalanced. Can you? Like, what's broken in this game?
Well, I've made my dislike for this game very
I understand. And
public, so I haven't played as much of it as you
But
have, I'm
you
sure,
can't-
but
it's very difficult to say it's unbalanced.
the marksman rifles might could use a nerf. Maybe.
Oh, I don't even use them. They're not even good enough.
Dude, I dominate with those whenever I play. But whatever. That's the kind of player that I am. I can dominate with that kind of weapon.
You are
Anyways.
a very skilled player.
Screw you for not causing more conflict. Anyways, so I think maybe the marksman rifles could use a little bit more of a nerf. Maybe.
You know,
Obviously, they could just take snipers out of the game if you ask me, because quick scoping's still easy.
and I can beat you at it, so you should definitely advocate their...
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
You know what we should
eventually.
do? We should just go do that now. Like, screw the rest of this show. I'm going to go spank you on Stonehenge or something. I don't care.
Stonehaven.
Whatever.
We might look into doing that after the show. We'll see. Yeah, spoiler alert. But
Free
anyways,
video for Wednesday. Woohoo!
yeah. You, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe there isn't anything to patch.
Like, okay, I want to read off just a couple of the things here that were listed for... if I can't find it now, why did I do that? Okay. So, they changed score streaks. They changed two things in the score streaks. And this is Black Ops 2, the patch that was almost a year ago, the very first patch that came out that changed what you did and how you played. Two things with score streaks, three things with equipment, or grenades, or tactical lethals. Changed 5 things with the SMGs. They changed 6 things with the assault rifles. They changed 3 things with the sniper rifles. 1 thing with a shotgun, which was that they reduced the one-hit kill range by the 870 by 45 inches. Still an awesome gun. Pistols, they changed 2 things, and a whole host of other stuff that doesn't have a true category, like fail safe to prevent spawn trapping and capture the flag. Precision challenge wet work will now unlock with 10 kills. You know, just stuff that behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Stuff that doesn't matter. Or things that do matter, but that just needed to be patched or dealt with anyway. There's a ton of stuff that was changed about what that game was, and it was all done like right at a month after the game came out. We're right at a month after Ghosts came out, and it's time for that patch. But I don't know. Like, you knew when Black Ops 2 dropped, the PDW needed to be dealt with. The 870 needed to be dealt with. I don't know if if anybody cared enough about the assault rifles to do anything about it. The XPR, I think, was a little... I don't remember if that was on this one or not. The XPR was really powerful.
Yeah. I can't think
The FAL.
of anything.
They nerfed the FAL pretty big.
Took multiple patches to nerf the FAL to the right level, but I can't. Man, I can't really. I guess the point you're trying to make is valid. That if this is around the time that the first patch is supposed to happen, what are they going to patch? I would. Okay, actually, now that I think about it, weapon balance is perfect. Is close to perfect. I would say buff some of the equipments and buff some of the assault score streak or kill streaks, because I feel like there's I rarely see anybody using any kind of equipment. Rare. I rarely see anybody using grenades, using flashes, using C4, any of that stuff. I think the C4 was completely OP in Black Ops 2, and concussions were OP in Black Ops 2, and EMPs were. So I don't think they should overdo it, but make this a little bit more serviceable. The assault score streaks are weak in this game. They're weak.
Do
you need to buff some of those.
It's because you can't shoot them down. Do you like
True.
you need to increase how good the chopper is and decrease its health, because you can put magazine after magazine after magazine. This thing has got too high of a health for me to shoot it down with a full assault rifle. It's too powerful. It's too OP. Because of its long life. You have a really, I didn't even think about the equipment stuff, but you have a really good point. Make it good enough that I spend a point on it, because right now I don't run grenades, and
I don't run anything except for a primary and perks. That's all I run. I don't even run a secondary.
I'm afraid that they're going to make you pay for your attachments on your guns, which may screw up the whole balance of everything in there. I wish that user interface in Ghosts was a little more user friendly. Like, tell me I have, like, it said 10 points. There was a bar at the top of Black Ops 2, and every time
I know,
you
that
did
was
something,
dumb how they don't have that in this.
every time you put something into your slot in Black Ops 2, it filled up, one of those little lights came on. There's nothing like that in Ghosts. You just have to guess that you've got it right.
Yeah.
And when it's balanced, I know what you're going to say is down in the perks bar, one empty perk will show up. That's just asking me to put more perks in there. That's not telling me that I should put a tactical grenade in there. I know that. You know that. But that's not user-friendly. That's not a good interface.
Absolutely.
So that's just not cool. Tell me what they are. Because they obviously have a 1-point value, because, you know, these perks are worth 1. These perks are worth 3 or 5, 6, 7. Maybe... And actually, I think the amount of perks that you can buy is pretty balanced. If you go just assault rifle or just anything, the amount of perks that you can get, I think that's pretty balanced. But yeah, nobody uses, very infrequently do people use equipment. I'm noticing it some in hardcore domination, which I'm glad they finally put in, and some in regular domination.
Yeah.
I want game modes, dude. I want...
God, the game modes in this game are so bad.
Yeah.
They're so bad. Blitz is not good in public matches, at least. Everything's a TDM variant in this game, almost. It's all TDM variants. It's so annoying.
Hunted is TDM. But
Hunted is TDM. Cranked is TDM. Free-for-all is free-for-all. TDM is TDM, obviously. Kill confirmed is TDM. Outside of domination, there's no in search. I guess there's no good objective game types.
You can
Blitz
argue
sucks. Blitz sucks. I'm sorry, people. Blitz is awful.
I like the way the pros play
competitive.
And I saw that when we did the live stream, that somebody had put, I think it was Archaic, had put in there, I like the way pubs play it and don't like the way pros play it. And I understand.
Archaic. No offense, Archaic, because you're probably gonna be watching this. Maybe I don't know.
He will be watching this.
But Archaic, you want to rush around on maps that are the size of Dome the entire game and just rush constantly and kill people, because I've played with you, Archaic, and you complain about campers more than anybody I know.
You won't play with him anymore because Homeboy went got a PS4.
Traitor. Whackman, when are you getting on the Xbox, man? I never see you online when I'm online, and I've got nobody to play with. And I'm always like, if there's anybody, Whackman's the only person I can think of off the top of my head that I play with a lot that has the Xbox. Yet I haven't played with you yet.
Xbox.
You got explaining to do.
So, guys, that was episode 26 of 3-Bar Exploits.
That was good. Okay, keep going.
I hope you've enjoyed it. We really miss Bondfire. He'll be back next week. Because I have just been challenged and issued a challenge previously, we're going to try to make this quick scoping thing happen, although background stuff's going on. So maybe not. Maybe the week after that. I hope you've enjoyed episode 26. Thank you to Strictly Business Gaming for hooking us up. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Woo! I forgot the sound effect.
I'm not losing that. I got that.
Yeah, keep it in.